Welcome to the webinar on running Automated Schedule Builder with MMS Generations. I'm Beth Elliott, your trainer today, and we're going to be doing a brief review of the areas that you need to run Automated Schedule Builder, of the constraints and patterns, and then we're going to go through checkpoints and actually running Automated Schedule Builder and the things that you need to keep in mind. So to start with, we're going to be working in Generations, and under School you have your scheduling term definitions. And this is where you can put in the length of the classes that you're going to have. So you might have year classes, semester, trimester, quarter, 6-week rotation, 8-week rotation, whatever the case may be. The weeks, starting and ending weeks, are used in scheduling. The starting and ending dates are used for class attendance. So you can do either one of those. I'm going to go ahead and save and exit. This is just letting me know that I have online attendance, so it's looking for my dates. Under Schedule, more schedule editing jobs, you have Edit Section Patterns. The patterns are what samples are you giving Automated to use when it builds sections. So we have some that are semester courses, we have some that are year courses, we have sciences with their labs, we have half-week courses for our health and PE, and we have lunch that is only certain periods. Under School, Edit Course Catalog, and this can also be done in the web portal. I have my web link turned off, so it's going to come into Generations, but if I had my web link turned on, it would bring up the staff portal for me. Under the course sequencing, we're going to be able to specify which courses must be assigned to the student before others if they are not year-long. This is not prerequisites, it's just a sequence of course assignment to the student. So if I come down into some of my electives, I might make determinations of what order I want things to be done in. I might want that my driver ed driving has my driver ed before I start doing the driving section of it. So things like that that you can say I want certain things in a set sequence. And these only come into play if the student asked for both. The course schedule constraints are, for each of my courses, how many sections do I want to be built? What is the maximum section size of how many seats that I have there? How many concurrent sections, which is how many sections can I build in the exact same time slot? Do I want Automated to build it? And if I do, what pattern do I want it to use? So it's setting up the driver ed to do the 2-day health and PE type pattern. And you can do that for each of the ones that you look at. Some courses are going to have more than one section pattern or can have more than one section pattern. It just depends on what the course is. So we can come in and take a look and see, band and chorus can be either semester. It just depends on what you're working with. With this pattern that we have here, the 2 patterns, it's going to load up all of the semester 1 course patterns before it looks at the semester 2 patterns. So it just gives us that ability to see what's going on. I might want a pattern, a single pattern, that would mix first semester and second semester. So I have a more even assignment of sections. But those are the constraints that you're going to use in the system. I'm going to close out of here and go in under School, Edit Rooms. The rooms is where I can set up the constraints for individual rooms. So if I look at a computer lab, I can see that there are 20 seats in the computer lab, which is probably how many computers there are. This room is not available period 8 for a length of 1. My course constraints is I have certain of the courses, the computer courses, that the room must be used for. So when it goes to assign rooms or courses to this room, it knows these are the ones that must use the room. I can come into departments and potentially pick anything in the technology department would be on the may room list, may be used in this room. So the seats, if when Automated builds sections, cannot assign a room to the section. If the maximum for that section is greater than the maximum seats in the room. The only exception to that is if the maximum room seats is 0, in which case you have said you have not put any requirement on that room, any limitation. And in any of these, you can go up to the printer button and get a report of what you're working with. I'm going to go ahead and close out of these and go into the staff. So under school, whether it's Edit Staff Basic or Edit Staff Expanded, both of those have the 4 tabs that have to do with constraints. We have time constraints, where you can, as we did with the room, you can specify when the teacher is not available. You can do something like this, maybe setting up some prep time, or other reasons. You might have a coach who shouldn't be scheduled into a class last period of the day because they are setting up for their games and so on. You can set up your maximum periods per day that the teacher may teach, how many per week, consecutive classes, how many classes in a row can the teacher be assigned to without a break. What is the total sections versus different courses? The maximum per week and day and or consecutive could very well be in the teacher's contracts. That's one of the reasons we put it here. And total sections, different courses might come down to how many preps that they need. Remember that for your total sections that you have to allow for the length of the course. If I have a teacher who teaches quarter classes, I need more sections than somebody who teaches year-long classes. The course constraints, like the room constraints, give me which courses the teacher must teach versus and how many sections. If I go forward to a couple of other teachers, I might see different numbers on how many sections they must teach. So here for Bodner, who is a art teacher, they're teaching 2 sections of art and advanced art, but 4 sections of art 2 and art 3. This teacher also happens to be the department chair, and we have a prep in there that we could potentially assign. So the top one is the courses the teacher must teach. The bottom is what they may teach. If I go into the departments, you can select up to 4 different departments for any one teacher. The departments are in the may teach list. So you have to be aware that anything that you select here, the teacher may teach anything in that department. So I might not want to move my science department because my physics teacher might not be certified to teach biology. And if my art department factors in for art and music, my teacher might not be certified to teach the music side. So you just need to be aware. You can use the department as a reference as long as you're not doing all constraints when we go to do the automated. And I'll show you where you can do that. The last of my tabs that I haven't covered yet is the room constraints. And there are 2 areas for the room constraint. The top one is may teach only in this room. So basically this is a must teach in this room. Or I can set it up that they may teach in a series of rooms. If I go back to my first teacher, that teacher has multiple rooms that they may teach in. So it gives you that area where they can float. And those are the constraints we're going to be using when we run Automated Schedule Builder. I'm going to go over to the portal to run this. I set up a user called Scheduler that when I log in comes into the next school year. The advantage of that is when I run things, I make sure I'm in the correct school year. You don't want to inadvertently reschedule your existing school that is running, so you want to be a little careful with that. So the first thing we're going to do in the new school year is we're going to create what's termed a checkpoint, and that's under scheduling. In my operations is manage checkpoints. The checkpoints are mini backups of scheduling areas. It's going to back up 9 tables, the departments, the course catalog, any sections you have, the teachers and rooms, the section patterns, the terms, and the student schedule records. Now the catalog also includes the sequence table. Doesn't necessarily show it here, but it will do that also. I can come down to the bottom and create a new checkpoint. When I create it from the web portal, a staff portal, it will always give me date and time when I run this. And then I can just come after that and say, it's before first run. So I have an idea of what did I put in there. The first one of the day is always A. The next one will be B, and so on. Now these older checkpoints I don't need anymore. I can come over to the right-hand side and hit the X and say that I want to delete the checkpoint. The little back arrow or circular arrow allows me to restore from that checkpoint. If you notice in the 12-13 school year that this one is grayed out, and that's because I'm not in the 12-13 school year. So it's not going to allow me to restore what I did last year or whatever into my current year. The backups, by the way, are also school specific. And I just had a question about the deleting the checkpoints, that if I use the X here, that it deletes it off the server as well, and the answer to that is yes, it does. And it does all 9 tables at once. So we finally have a way to delete the old checkpoints. And they just take up room in your database, so you do want to periodically come through and clean them out. If this is November, school started the end of August, I really don't need any of the checkpoints to start the school year because the schedule has changed since then. So go back and cleaning them up is a nice feature. You can have as many checkpoints as you want. The naming convention of month, day, year with a letter indicating which one for that day gives you 26 checkpoints in one particular day, and it starts over again the next day. It makes it nice to be able to do that. Do remember, though, that if you restore a checkpoint, any schedule changes, course requests or so on that you did with the students are going to go back to where it was at the point of the checkpoint. So if I have added new students in and put their schedule requests in, I might not want to go back because I would lose those requests. So just be aware of that. Now that I have a checkpoint, I want to start looking at what I need to work with. One of the things I might want to consider when I schedule is what filter I'm using. Usually I'm going to use some form of year of grad filter. Something to consider is I might want to be in something other than a student name filter, because if my guidance counselors are split alphabet-wise, so I have a guidance counselor that does the first half of the alphabet and a guidance counselor that does the second half of the alphabet. If I am in a year of grad student name filter, the first half of the alphabet has a much better chance of getting into their course requests than the last half of the alphabet. So I'm going to go into Manage, and I'm going to do View Edit Filters and create a filter that randomizes the students so they are not in alphabetic order. So I want to create a new filter, and I just give it a name. I'm going to do year of grad by birth date, and I'm going to let it go ahead and come over here. Now, I don't have to make this teacher available to the teachers. It does show me the current owner. I can allow users other than the owner to modify this filter, and I can allow users other than the owner to view the filter. If I turn both of these to no, that becomes this user's personal filter. I have a question of, can you run both the ASB off of the web interface and the MMS generations without issues? And the answer is yes. It all depends on whether you do it through the web interface or not, is whether or not the web link is turned on. It will basically still use the same item in the background. So I'm going to come into my biographic on the filter, and I want to add in that I want my active students. So I'm going to go to my EMF flag. This is my biographical active-inactive. I want it to be like, which is a faster comparison than equal to, and my value is A. So I want just my active students. And on the sort order, this is where I'm going to work with it, because I'm going to come in here and say I want my year of grad, as my first sort. I could ignore the case of the letters for a year of grad, which is usually numeric. It doesn't matter. And then the next field I want to work with is my birthday. So by selecting the birth date, the kids are going to be a lot more randomized, but I could say sorted on the phone number, sorted on the house number, whatever it is that I want to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and move over the birth date, and I'm going to process. So what you're going to find in here is it's going to give me an idea of what the sort order of the students is going to be. And you can see that I'm no longer in a pure alpha order. And that was my intent. So the only ones that might be grouped together last name-wise might be twins. So it just gives me that area where I can come in and see. So I'm going to go ahead and save this and then close. At this point, I'll be able to change to that new filter. And I'm going to go into scheduling. And I'm going to come over to Automated Schedule Builder. We're going to start with the build sections. So there's my year of grad by birth date. The different areas in the Automated Schedule Builder. I can build sections, so based on the constraints that we have set up, it's going to actually create sections and schedule students into them. I can come back later and assign rooms or teachers to existing sections that don't have them. I can also remove my room or teacher assignments. The middle two here is I can remove sections from the student requests, which means I'm going to leave the course request. I'm just going to take out the section assignment. This leaves the sections in the section table. The next item down removes those sections from the section table, and it would remove the section assignment from the students at the same time. And the last of the items under automated is the schedule analysis report, which would give us an idea of how well did the schedule run work. So by doing the build sections, we can do a student range, as you can in generations, where you can come in and select what students you want to work with. And as you can see, it's not in a straight alpha order, but it is in order by the year of grad. The setup is, do I want to do semester balancing? Semester balancing is if I have less than year-long classes and the student has asked for more than one from the same department, I'm going to try and balance that load across the semesters. So if American Lit and British Lit were semester courses and they're both in the English department, it would try to put one in first semester and one in second semester if they were semester courses. The course sequencing is where things like the driver ed needs to come before the driver ed driving. So if the courses need to be taken in a certain order, they're going to try and put them in that order based on the sequencing that you set up. The last of these is the allow overloads. So it's going to give you the ability to say, do I want to allow the system to put more students in the section than I set up as the maximum. Sometimes your overloads, allowing that will show you that, oh, if I have another teacher, I can put 2 sections into the same time slot and get more students scheduled. But I would have to have the staff to be able to do that. If I don't allow overloads, I might not see that as a possibility. But it also means that I haven't put more students in the sections than I can contract for. So it depends on what you want to work with. I'm going to allow overloads this run. The minimum number of scheduling attempts per student by default is 100,000. What that is how many different permutations of sections do I want to try before I quit. The more sections you have, the more permutations there are. So if I had, 2 courses with 2 sections each, that's 4 2 by 2, that's 4 different combinations. If I have 4 sections with 10 selections, it's 4 times 10 times 10 times 10, because I have the different combinations that I want to work with. Think about a deck of cards. You have 4 suits and 13 cards per suit. How many different 4 suit combinations can I have within that? So there's, because I have all 4 aces, I have 3 aces and 1 deuce, 3 aces and 1 3, and so on, all from the same suit. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of them in there. It does tell you here that Automated will remove the section assignments in order to attempt a better schedule with each pass. So you can do different things here. I can use the partial scheduler to leave the previous section's assignment alone, or I can use other areas with, say, a student range if I don't want to do that. So it does let you know there are some things to be aware of. The next is we're going to configure the builder. There are 2 sides to this. There's a room side and a teacher assignment side. On the room assignments, the default on both of these when I come in is there is no room assignment and there is no teacher assignment. If I go ahead and build the sections at this point, it's going to be strictly a student scheduler. It's not going to take care or take into account any of the constraints other than how many sections to build that I have specified. So it'll be a pure student scheduler. Can I build what I want? I can come in on, say, the rooms and say assign rooms to courses in the must be used list only. So I can come in and say, yes, go ahead and do that, assign my rooms, only use the must list. The other ones I'm not as concerned with. You have the option to allow sections to be built where there is no room can be found. So this is saying build it anyway, just don't assign a room. And we have the same thing on the teacher side, where I can assign and have the computer assign teachers to the courses in the must teach only, or I can do it to all teacher constraints, in which case it doesn't necessarily pay attention to do musts first and may second. It's going to look at all of the constraints at once. You can also allow sections to be built where no teacher can be found, or you can say no, in which case if I don't have a teacher, it's not going to build the section. So that's something to be aware of. You can use different items such as the actual section editor or interactive schedule builder to create your own sections for certain courses if you want to, because you might have decisions that something like band has to be period 8 and your VOTEC courses have to be in these locations because another school is determining when those are. It's not that you have to only use Automated. You can mix and match depending on what your needs are. The next item before I do my actual build is I'm going to go into the course selection. With the course selection, I'm going to move over the courses in the order that I want the sections to be built. So I might want to move my AP courses first. The list of courses that I see that need sections are always in the order of the number of sections I said to build and alphabetic within that. So I have all my singletons first. If I scroll down, I'll then see my doubletons, and after that my triples and so on. So how many sections do I need to build? So I can come in here and say, oh, go ahead and move over my honors courses after my AP courses. What I'm normally doing is I am starting with the restricted courses. If I have certain ones that have to be in the morning or have to be in the afternoon, I might want to put those in first and then maybe do my APs or my sciences because the labs can influence where everything else goes. In the meantime, I'm just doing my honors at this point. And I'm also doing the honors or APs of my core classes, not necessarily my electives. And then I'm going to throw in my other courses. So it just depends on what I want to work with. And I forgot to get algebra over there. What's nice in the web portal that I can't do in Generations is I can come in and say, oh, this algebra needs to go up one. So I can move it over here and move it up. without having to back it out and put it back in again. So it's really nice that it gives me that capability. When you schedule, the intent here is normally get all your singletons working before I go and do my doubletons. I do know that for the most part, when I'm moving and having automated build sections, it can build the sections faster than I can go do all my section selections. So I'm going to go ahead and move the rest of my core classes over. I'm just doing my singletons right now. Yeah, some of these are special ed courses like the social studies and science, and that's not a problem. I don't have the facility here to do a multi-select that I do in generations, but I can come in and say, oh yeah, go ahead and let's just move everything else. And if I moved one too many, I can come over on the right, highlight the one I didn't want, and remove it from the list. So the intent is let's get my singletons scheduled, and I'm going to go ahead and build the sections. Verifies that's what I want to do. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to run through. It's figuring out what do I need. It's building those schedules, and then it's going to schedule the students into the sections. It's done, and then it shifts me over to my build results. So it built sections for 40 different courses. So because I just did singletons, it built them. If I did not have the section pattern, I moved it from one year to the next and it wasn't there, it would give me a message. It would also show me if I had a course that didn't have a pattern selected for it. And it would come back and tell me. So those 40 sections were created and scheduled in 0.2 seconds. Which is kind of neat. I can come out back under scheduling and go to my schedule analysis report. That's going to show me, based on singleton, doubles, and so on, when I print, how well it did. So I can come through here and it shows me there are 368 students. 12 don't have requests yet. 41 courses have sections. 43 sections were defined. So I have a course there that has 3 sections. Of my 368 students, 253 of them are fully scheduled based on the sections that I gave it. So it gives me an idea of where I am. Lets me know that 9 is the maximum number of sections that were requested for any one course. So there's 46 courses set up for singletons. 6 of them don't have any students. And I'm 97% scheduled on those singletons. It lets me know how many do not have teachers or rooms and how many are overloaded. So that's something I might need to go in and look at. Why do I have overloaded sections if I only have the singletons running at this point? It also lets me see how many courses are set up for doubletons, 2 sections, 3 sections, and so on. None of these are scheduled because I didn't set those up. If I can live with my 97% scheduled, because there's the rest of the 7, 8, and 9 of how well it did, I can come back and actually run the next piece of do my doubletons. Now, before I run the doubletons, I might choose instead that, wait a minute, I need to do another checkpoint because I want to be able to come back to where I am right now. As I said, you can have as many doubletons as you want. So I can come in and put, so my first run with singletons, and I can even put 97% if I'd like. And I can create that. It doesn't like the percentage. Okay. Doesn't like that? I'll do it that way. So it didn't like the percent, but it did everything else. So there's my new checkpoint. You can come in under Manage, and I can edit my course sections, or I can just do a section listing. If I come into the sections to do the edit, what's nice in the portal is I can do things like sort not only on the course code, course, and section. I can actually organize this by teacher, which is really nice to be able to see. But this lets me see for each of them, here was my maximum and here are the kids that are enrolled. So British and World Lit was one of my singletons that went over because I had 25 students in it and my maximum was only 20. That explains why I had overloads. So it's something that I need to look at. So at this point I can come back in, run the automated again to build the sections. Yet I'm going to let it build the rest of my sections for me. So I'm letting it build those. And I'm just going to move everything else. I'm not going to be as concerned with this run, but I could have moved my other APs and so on. If I click on my build results first before I hit the build sections, it's actually going to let me see it do it as it runs. So it built the other sections and scheduled the students into them. And it unscheduled the students from the first 41 courses before it did this run. So it built sections for another 38 courses. And at the bottom, in less than half a minute, it put in 103 sections. If I'd like to see those sections, one of the places I can do that in is if I go under scheduling. I can come in and say, oh, I want to remove sections from the section table, or I can come into any of these other items except for the analysis report. And it's going to show me what it did. So there's the name of the course section, the semester of the term, what days it meets, the periods, the room, the teacher. So I can see I have some teachers that didn't assign a room, and I have some that have a room but not a teacher. So I see my maximums, I see how many are actually enrolled in the classes. The split, E for end, which would be the blank if you looked at the section editor, or a C for continue. Automated schedules everything as a normal priority course. You can come back in later and change the sections to low priority if you want, and then rerun the student scheduler so that you can say, oh, my art classes, my music, even driver ed, that's a low priority course. Because if it comes down to a choice between English or driver's ed, I really want them in the English course. So that's where the priority comes in. And the C is the computer-built sections, and H would be a hand-built section. So if I scroll to the bottom, I'm probably going to see that my hand-built sections are my lunches. So it could be lunch, it could be something where I specifically stated where that course was supposed to go. So it gives you the option. I have a comment that in the dream world, we would love the feature of setting the courses to low priority before running the first time. And I believe that is in as an enhancement request, but I don't know what the time frame is on it. But this gives me a nice idea of what do I have. So I have my maximums, I have how many are enrolled. I can come in and look at my schedule analysis. The analysis is going to let me see when I hit print how well I did between singleton, doubles, and so on. So I still have overloaded sections. That British and World Lit was one of them. But now I have a lot more done. So I'm 97% done of my singletons. I have 95% of the students scheduled into doubletons, 95 into my triples, 95 into my quads, and so on. So this just lets me see how well I did in my various courses of are they set up or not. You have reports that you can run in here. There is a section enrollment detail report. This is very similar to one that we have in PRW, where I can come in and say I'm going to do all my classes. I can order it by course section or teacher name. I'm going to leave it course section. I'm going to let it build the list of those courses. I can limit it based on those that meet during a particular week or term code. My report options allows me to move over to get some extra counts. So I can say include a special ed count and give me counts for 10th, 11th, and 12th because I don't have my 9th graders in yet. I can save these settings so I can do them again. And when I print, it's going to go through for each of the courses, show me the section listing, but it's also going to break it down by the grade levels, gender within the grade level, and special eds. So I can see, do I have a balance of my special ed students included in my regular courses? So here it's showing me each of the courses with the section number, the term, the periods, my enrolled and my seats, how many open. If the open seats are in negative, that means that it overloaded. And then it's going to split it out by the grade levels and or the special ed that I specify. So it lets me see what's going on. And this also lets me see that I have a communication studies for grade 10, but I have a grade 11 student in it. So that might be something I need to go look at to find out why I have an 11th grader in a 10th grade class. But it lets me see how well it did. And for each course, it shows me that I have 57 requests, 56 are scheduled, which means I'm 98% scheduled for this class. So I have one student who didn't get in. So it lets me see what's going on. So it shows me that for each of my courses. So a lot of these I can see that I'm at 100%. Here's another one where I have 5 students who didn't get in my Principles of Democracy. So it might have to take a peek of what else is going on with them. It does give me that option to be able to come in and see what's going on. I can do another checkpoint at this point, saying I did my first full run. I might decide I need to go back and instead of doing everything, maybe I need to finish getting my singleton squared away. But I want to be able to come back to this point, so I want another checkpoint. Okay, so it's after my second run with everything scheduled, but I now want to go back to that first run with just the singletons. So I click on the button. It wants to verify that's what it's going to do. It will erase records before it brings them back, and I'm going to say go ahead and do that. So it restored, so those extra sections are not there anymore. And if I come in and look at the sections, I'm only going to have my singletons. I'm not going to have the other ones done at this point. But it gives me that option that I can come in and see what's going on. So as you work with automated, it's getting the singletons done first because you have, with singletons, they can only go in one place. At this point, if I wanted to, I know where my singletons are. I can come into my edit course sections and say that certain of these I want to change the priority. So if my journalism and my creative writing are electives, I can come into these and say that I want to be able to edit them. And that's just a highlight the section and come up here to edit the selected section. At this point, I'm going to be able to change the priority from normal to low. I can save it, come into journalism, edit the sections, and again, change from normal to low. I could also assign my grade plan at this point if I want to, indicate whether I want to omit from class attendance. It could be that I'm just working on the other part. So it gives me that option to be able to go in and then potentially do other runs because I could come in under the operations and run the student scheduler once I've changed the priority of my sections. But know that the next time I run automated, if I was getting my singleton squared away, it's going to unschedule the students, leave the sections, unschedule the students, and reschedule normal priority courses first, singleton, doubleton, triples. Within the singleton group, it's going to do it in course code order. So the course codes can make a difference of what I'm working with. So it makes it nice that you can come in, make those modifications, see what's going on and say, yep, I want to be able to do that. I know entrepreneurship is an elective. My computer programming are electives. So it's just a matter of working with what's here. I could also, at this point, if I went back to my British Lit, if I was allowing for overloads, if I go back to British and World Lit, I can highlight this at this point, edit the section, and say, oh, maximum is going to be 26. Automate any of our schedulers. It's going to try and put the student into the section with the most available seats or the least amount of overloads. So figuring out what your enrollments are, what your requests are, and then figuring out the maximums from there. If I had 2 sections of 45 kids asking for a course, and I made both sections 30, because that's what I'm allowed to do, I could end up with 30 kids in one section and 15 in the other, neither of them being overloaded, but I'm not necessarily balanced. So when I'm determining what my maximum is going to be, a lot of times I will figure out how many sections am I going to build, divide that number into how many requests I have, roll up to the next whole number, and then maybe add 2 to give me some leeway and make that my maximum. Once my schedule is built, I can always come back and change what my maximum is. That's not a problem. So this just lets me modify what I have so far. And that makes it handy for what I want to do. So you can change these as long as you haven't redone the areas as you're working with, you can do that. I can come back in to scheduling and go to remove sections from the section table. What's nice in here is I can do them on a range of students or a range of sections. I might come in and say, oh, I want to get rid of these math classes because I'm doing some sort of a change. Hold my shift key down and I can select just those classes. I want to remove those from the section table. So you can roll your sections from the current year to next year, remove the ones that you want the system to reschedule, and keep the ones that are not going to change. When Automated starts building, it cannot work with a teacher that is in conflict. So if you have manually put 2 sections together, 2 different courses for a regular course and an inclusion on top of it, because you know one of your Spanish classes or one of your English classes needs to have a special ed component with it, but you want to put, say, where those special ed kids, which section they're going to. If you assign both, you can build the section one on top of the other. What I might not want to do is assign the teacher to it, even though I know who the teacher's going to be. Automated cannot work with a teacher or a room that is already in conflict. So if I don't assign the room of the teacher, but I do, if it's going to be a conflict, but I do create the section, then it'll be able to work with that. So it's just something to be aware of. I've got to figure out what's going on. But it's nice that I can pull things forward as need be. I might want to try and assign my teachers or my rooms now that I have a schedule squared away. And if I go into scheduling, I can assign teachers or assign rooms. And at this point I can say do it to all my sections that basically don't already have a room. I can do all of my teachers, except I don't need people like the citizen, the bus driver, the janitor. A couple of these don't need to be in there. And it's only going to try and assign the teacher where it couldn't already have one. When you do the assigned rooms or the assigned teachers, it's going to use all constraints, not just the must teach or the may teach. So it's going to look at, anything from the art department. So more of these got filled in because it knew, oh, I can pull from that list. And I can do the same thing for my assign rooms and go in and say, yep, go ahead and do all my sections that are here. I'm going to move all my rooms and go ahead and do it. Now I have multiple gyms per se. If I want to be able to have multiple gym teachers, even though it's the same gym, I might need multiple rooms so I don't conflict the room. So I can go ahead and process, and it might have filled in the couple of rooms that it didn't have before. So now I have rooms assigned, and with a couple of exceptions, I have my teachers assigned based on what I have in their constraints. So as easy as that to put things in. If I'd like to go back to a certain area, if I haven't changed my constraints yet, but I want to try running the build in a different course sequence, I could come in and say, I want to remove the sections from the section table. At this point, I want to do all my computer build sections, which right now leaves me my lunch. So I'm going to go ahead and process. This also removes the section assignment from the students. The advantage of doing this versus the restore the checkpoint. This leaves the course requests with the student. So if I've had new students coming in, or I had those 12 students that had not had course requests yet, and I'm putting those in, I haven't lost those requests that have come in. Everything else stays the same, but I don't want to take that away. So it gives me a way to start over. So at this point I can come back in, build the sections again, but this time when I build them, and I could do another checkpoint, I'd rather have too many than not enough, but I can come in and say, yes, I want to do both of these, and I'm going to start moving my classes over. And I might decide this time I'm doing my APs first. I then want to put my science labs next after my APs. So it depends on what I'm working with. That's going to determine the order that I want to work with. And I could, because I know it's a smaller group of students, opt the normal is I get all my singletons working first. But I might decide, okay, I'm going to get my APs done first, and then my sciences. And then I'll bring in the other ones after that. Because I know the sciences with labs are going to impact where other courses go. So I can opt to come in and say, yeah, I want to do those first, and then I'll come back in and do the others. Move some of those around because of the type of course it is. So does that make sense? So the order that you move the courses over to be built can influence how it figures out what it's going to do. So that's something to be aware of, that you need to throw those in. And then I can come back down and do my honors courses and figure out what else I need. But the intent is get all of your singletons done first and then do my other courses. So I'm going to let it run. I have all my courses over here. I'm going to build them. So with doing all of my courses for the 368 students, that's going to be, I think, 78 courses to be built, as it does the last piece. So 78 courses. It built 143 sections and students placed in them in about a minute. So it took longer to move the courses over than it did to build what it had. And then we can see the results. And you can come in under scheduling and look at the analysis report. So it makes it nice to have that capability. So 97%. Not quite as good, only 90% on my doubletons, so I did better the first time. That's where I might want to go back to the other section and see what's going on. In generations, you have reports that can help at this point. You can come in to schedule more reports and run the request scheduled report. Similar to the one in the web portal, this one will only give me the percent scheduled. It's not going to give the breakdown on, this is overall for the course, so I can see how well I did. So World Cultures has 4 kids not in it. American Cultures, again, has 4 students not in it. So I can see what's going on. So I need to pay attention to that. You can come in under schedule, look at your class lists to see who is in each of the classes. You can look at the, under reports, the student record listing. And the last one, the student schedule record list. When you print, I usually term this as the guidance counselor list, because it lets me do, for each student, it'll show me the course, the section number, or no section assignment. So Amy didn't get into physics, and Emily here didn't get into pre-calc. But I might need to go back and look at some of those going, multiple students didn't get into pre-calc. Did I actually schedule pre-calc? So if I come back over here, I can look at Manage, edit my course catalog. And if I go down to course 229, I can see whether or not course 229 is set up to be scheduled. So if I go click on, oops, come down a little bit more, there's my pre-calc. I'm going to go into my course schedule constraints. There's 229. So it was supposed to be building 3 sections of 20. But I might have come in here and realized, oops, conceptual biology, I didn't tell it to build. And that could be something that happened of, oh, I didn't have enough in there. So if I compare my request scheduled report in generations with the course schedule constraints here, I can look at my maximum sections, my section enrollment, multiply one by the other and see if I have enough seats to cover the number of requests that I had. So that can help what I'm doing. Just as a reminder, when I'm in doing things like my scheduling in automated, if I was building the sections or removing sections from the student requests, you can go into help and it will bring up information on removing sections from the student requests. So it's going to give you some information. It'll refer you to an overview of the automated schedule builder, scheduling with automated builder for additional information. It shows things like what is the split, what's the priority, the computer and hand build sections, so on. So I have a question of, can I change the section pattern on the web portal or only in generations? You can change the section pattern assignment to the course in either location. You can only edit the section patterns themselves in MMS generations at this point. So if I go back into that, when I come in under Manage, Edit Course Catalog, on the course schedule constraints, this is where I can change the pattern by hitting the edit in the front of it. But in order to have those patterns, I have to come in under School, under Generations, and go to Schedule, More Edits, edit the section patterns. So the patterns are over here. The assignment is either under School, Edit Course Catalog, or in the portal under Manage, Edit Course Catalog. So it just depends on where you need to work. If I'm in Generations, I can always go to the question mark to get help. I can edit the section. I can come in and say, oh, what is a section pattern? And I can go back and forth and see what's going on. You can always hit the Show, which gives you an area where you would then have the table of contents. So all of those work. So it just depends on what you need. So it gives you an idea, and you have the links to the other areas. You can see right here the different areas of what do you want, and you even have a guideline for creating additional section patterns. There are some common ones, how to identify which ones you need. All of that is nice. Also remember that you have access on the MMS website to the knowledge base articles and that sort of thing. So if I come down here, I'm going to go to another tab. And I can go ahead and bring up the website. The account number that we're using now is a district number, not specific to the school. But once you're in here, you can go into the different areas. You have the knowledge base articles where you can search anytime you want. If you have the webinar subscription, you can see what other classes are coming up, and you can also look at the Video Learning Center where there are tech bites that are 5 to 15 minutes long versus the full-length webinar recordings, that sort of thing that you can go in and look at any time. Pause it, back it up, come in again. Thank you for attending, and hopefully we'll see you at another webinar.